How do you return to the big idea that you are going to share with a group when you get off track, when you find yourself rambling, when you've just gone down that rabbit hole, you're in the weeds and you just can't figure out the right word to say? Someone asked me this past week. How do I get back on track when I am rambling in front of a group? Well, I want to propose to you a framework that you can use whether you're addressing a group of 5, whether you're addressing a group of 1, or you're addressing a group of 500. This framework is, number 1, ask yourself, what is the outcome that I want from what I'm about to share? In other words, if the world were to end tomorrow and dinosaurs were destroying the earth, what is the one thing that I want to get out of what I'm about to share? Do I want them to go on to do a sales call with me? Do I want them to come to an event? Do I want them to go on a retreat? Like, what is that thing that I want them to do, and have that written down on a bullet point in front of me? The next thing I would do is figure out a story that I am going to tell that supports that outcome. Now, my preference is that you tell a personal story because it's your lived experience. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier to tell a personal story because you lived it. But you can also tell a story about somebody else, or you could tell a story in the third person to support that outcome that you ultimately want. The third thing is the promise, where you're going to start all of this. I'm going to tell you about a time that I almost failed and wasn't going to recover. And here's why this is important. So the framework, again, to revisit is, what is the outcome? We're reverse engineering here. The second is a story that supports that outcome. And then there's the promise. Here is what I'm going to tell you and why that is important. If you have that framework in front of you, and you have bullet points that are at eye level that you can refer to when your brain goes on the fritz and you can't recall what you're saying, you have that to bring you back on track. Now, that index card or that piece of paper should not be, as my mother used to say, the Mahābhārat. It should not be War and Peace. It shouldn't be Anna Karenina. It can't be some big long essay, otherwise it loses the reason why you've got that piece of paper. It's got to be bullet points that bring your mind on track. The second piece of advice that I would give you is to leverage the power of the pause. We live in such an overstimulated world that for you to be able to pause is actually more arresting for anybody who's in the room than anything else, because they're going to look up from their phone or whoever they were texting to be like, why isn't anybody talking right now? Use that pause to recollect your thoughts. You can even say, I need to look at my notes. I need to recollect my thoughts. Use humor if you need to and look down and say, I've lost my train of thought. I need to just look at my notes. You are human. You're having a human experience. The audience wants you to win. So just take that moment and that pause. Your brain is usually going a lot faster than you are talking and then you are thinking. The third piece of advice that I want to offer you comes from women's leadership coach Tracy Ward, and she encourages you to do a very specific exercise to understand what that self-talk track is that's always running beneath the surface.
So what I do is I get clients for 3 days to get some Post-it notes and a pen. Post-it notes are good because you can just always have them in your handbag or in a pocket. And for 3 days, monitor every time a thought comes up, monitor it. And you'll start off and you'll go, oh, this is just silly. And then you'll start doing it. And then typically what happens is women will go, I can't believe what I'm telling myself. You become quite shocked when you see the reams of Post-it note, of really verbal abuse that you're telling yourself. Rarely is our self-talk so healthy. And so that is just a really powerful first step, because you can understand why that's holding you back.
I love the Post-it note exercise, and maybe you choose not to do it on a Post-it note. Maybe you choose to do it on a notepad, but writing down every single time you have something not so kind to say about yourself can really be a wake-up call to understand why you think you are not, in fact, a very good public speaker. You just might be. You didn't know it yet, what your self-talk track is. Hey, I host a mastermind for women leaders that want to do this level of deep self-inquiry to understand what some of those talk tracks are that are running beneath the surface, especially as you're going out into the world and building a personal brand. And you want to build that personal brand within the next year.
One of the most transformational moments for me through the mastermind, and it's been about 9 months now, was to come up with a list of characteristics that described the successful person in my role. And going through that exercise and pinpointing how I actually map back to those characteristics, and then being able to convince people and show them the vision that I had for success in the role, was something that I'd never done actively before, but something that helped me tell my story much better to the leadership team. I came into the mastermind with the goal of getting a promotion by the end of July. And by the end of July, I had the promotion that I wanted in the role that I wanted it in.
If you would like to do that with me, I can shepherd you through the process. I like to call myself a shepherd. And so I would love to enroll you for 2023. All you got to do is DM me. Better yet, I got a little quiz for you. Take the quiz down below and see just exactly how influential you are.